Leading a diverse team isn't always easy. Differing approaches and opinions can either be your greatest asset or a constant source of tension on the team. Today, I'm unpacking some common sense ways to turn a team of diverse characters into a strength that fuels momentum instead of one that's constantly draining your energy. Let's dive in. Each generation brings unique strengths. Baby boomers, as an example, bring experience and structured problem solving. Gen X thrives on autonomy and efficiency. Millennials drive collaboration and innovation. And Gen Z values transparency and challenges outdated systems. Yet, too many leaders try to force everyone into the same mold instead of tapping into what makes each group unique. Having a team of diverse characters should be a strength, not a pain in the ass. The first advice I want to share today is you have to adapt your communication style. One size doesn't fit all. See, most breakdowns in leadership aren't about bad strategy. They're about poor communication. See, some people on your team need structured updates, while others prefer quick, informal check-ins. Some process information best in real-time meetings, while others need asynchronous communication to reflect before responding. You have to balance structured meetings with informal one-on-ones. And you got to use multiple formats. You got to mix live discussions, email updates, and video calls all together. You also got to clarify expectations. Don't assume when you deliver a message that it landed. You got to ask for feedback to ensure alignment. And I know this sounds like common sense, but like I always say, common sense isn't always common practice. The best leaders adjust how they communicate instead of expecting everybody on their team to adjust to them. Next, co-create the go-forward plan with your team. See, this is where most leaders get it wrong. And I can say this because I learned this the hard way. Earlier in my career, I was leading a team to a pretty important project. And I thought I had the perfect strategy mapped out. I spent weeks refining it, making sure that like every detail was flawless before presenting it to my team. I remember walking into that meeting and I was expecting everybody to be buy-in and excited. Instead, you know what I got? I got silence. People just nodded their head, right? There was no energy, there's no ownership, there's absolutely zero momentum. That's when I realized a go-forward plan, if it isn't co-created with your team, it isn't a plan. See, that was a defining moment for me. I began to alter my leadership style. Instead of dictating what I wanted, I started involving my team and my peers earlier in the process. I would seed them with questions. I'd listen to their responses, and together we brainstormed ways to shape the go-forward direction. Guess what? Everyone was more engaged, more accountability, and we executed better, which is what everybody's looking for. If you really want an aligned team, you have to involve everybody in the plan. You got to hold what I call co-creation sessions where everyone contributes. One of my favorite questions to ask in those is like, hey, what's the biggest opportunity we're not capitalizing on? And then you got to give your team a voice when you define priorities so they feel ownership. Next, you got to drive accountability with autonomy. Once everyone's on the same page, you have to give them space to execute. But this is where leadership also gets a little tricky because there's a fine line between supporting your team and micromanaging them. Some leaders will hover over every detail, suffocating any forms of creativity, while others step too far back, creating uncertainty and inefficiency. The solution is what I refer to as empowered autonomy. You got to set clear objectives, but let your team define the how. You got to use accountability check-ins, not to police people, but to remove obstacles. You got to leverage peer accountability and let your team hold themselves to each other to the high standard of the team. See, when people know where they're going, but have the flexibility to adjust how to get there on their own, they perform better, they're more engaged, and they take ownership. Lastly, you got to build a culture of continuous alignment. See, team alignment isn't a one-time event. It's an ongoing process. You can't assume that just because you had a great meeting, a great strategy session, or one powerful town hall, that everybody's good to go. You need to develop a communication framework that keeps everyone aligned and on the same page. I love personally to schedule regular check-ins, not just for updates, but to reinforce what we're trying to accomplish and to recalibrate as needed. I like to encourage open feedback. people on my team constantly hear me say, hey, what's working? What's not? What do we need to adjust? What do we need to stop doing, start doing, experiment with? See, the best insight come from the people closest to the business, closest to the work. And lastly, you got to stay adaptable, right? What worked 6 months ago may not work today. So if you're not evolving with your team, you're going to fall behind. Because here's the truth. Leading a diverse team of characters is either going to become your greatest strength or your biggest challenge. So you might as well embrace the differences, refine how you communicate, and create shared ownership. And you know what? You'll have a team that's more engaged, more innovative, and more committed to driving the business forward. But if you try to force fit everyone into the same box, you know what? You're going to struggle, and guess what? They will too. If you want some more leadership insight like this, I encourage you to download my latest ebook, The CEO Shift. Empower your leaders to think like entrepreneurs and lead like owners. Click the link in the description, right, and grab your free copy. If you're not ready to think about your leadership at that kind of level, let me at least buy you a copy of my recent book, Freedom to Experiment: How to Ignite a New Level of Energy, Focus, and Momentum in Yourself and Your Team. All I ask that you do is pay for a small shipping and handling fee. If interested, follow the link in the description, and I'll personally sign a copy for you. Okay, if you like what I shared today, do me a favor, give it a thumbs up, drop a comment below related to your business, and of course, subscribe, because each week I'm sharing content to help you and your team embrace change, focus your efforts, and accelerate results. Remember this, you're just one idea away. Talk to you soon.